Parent's body may be haploid or diploid, okay, but they gives gametes only haploid. Now you got it. So in other word, I can say that gametes are always haploid, though the parent body from which they arises may be either haploid or diploid. Okay, so here the diploid organism, okay, and here haploid organism means parent's body. We are talking about the parent. If there is diploid parent's body is there, okay, they form a gamete. They form gamete by meiotic division. That meiotic division we also known as reduction division or reductional division. Fine. And this haploid parent's body form a gametes by mitotic division. It form a gamete from mitotic division. Understood? Okay. Here this organism, for example, it's algae, fungi, bryophyta have a haploid plant body. Okay. Here haploid. We are talking about parent's body, right? It may be haploid or diploid. So haploid gamete, haploid parent's body form gamete from mitotic division, and diploid parent body form a gamete by meiotic division. Okay, so in haploid haploid plant, for example, I am giving you example that is called as algae or fungi or bryophyta or bryophyta. These all three have haploid plant body. And here there are pteridophyta, or we can say pteridophytes, gymnosperm and angiosperm have diploid plant body, right? So algae, fungi and bryophytes have haploid plant body, whereas pteridophyta, gymnosperm and angiosperms have diploid plant body. It means they are having double set of chromosome and they are having half set of chromosome. Understood? Okay. In diploid organisms, now we are talking about this. In diploid organism, there is a gamete mother cells is there here. Diploid. It's a gamete specialized cell is there, that is called as gamete mother cell, and that gamete mother cells is also known as meiocyte, that is called as meiocyte. So this in diploid organisms, this specialized cells called as gamete mother cell or is also known as meiocyte, this undergoes meiosis and to form a haploid gamete, and that gamete have half set of chromosome, that is 23 number of chromosome. Okay, and a haploid parent body produces gamete by the meiotic division, right? So here is a pteridophyta, gymnosperm. It's not a angiosperm, it's animals, and that animals is nothing but the human being. Okay, so this is all about the cell division during the gamete formation, and here the gametogenesis is over. Okay, Next step of next steps of pre fertilization event is left, that is called as what? Yes, it's a gamete transfer. Okay, now we will see in that after the formation of male and female gamete, right? Again I repeat, after the formation of male and female gamete, it must be physically brought together and to facilitate the fusion or to facilitate the fertilization. Okay, so gamete transfer in majority of organism is, so what happened in before the fertilization, the gamete is transferred to the male gamete is transferred to the female gamete, and then they fuse, they form a zygote, then after the fertilization is occurs. Okay, so what is this? Actually we are going to study in gamete formation. Here they form male and female gamete, may be physically brought together. So this activity facilitated by the one step, that step is known as gamete transfer. In majority of organisms, you know that male gamete is motile and female gamete is non-motile in majority of animal. Okay, but except fungi and algae. Okay, in this both male and female, both male and female gametes are motile. Okay, in most of the animal, what will happen? Male is motile because they have flagella, they have a tail. Female is non-motile because egg doesn't have flagella or tail. Okay, except fungi and algae. In that case, in both these cases of fungi and algae, both male and female gametes are motile. Okay, now we are talking about in simple plants. Okay, now we are talking simple plants. In simple plants we are taking example of algae, fungi, bryophytes, and pteridophytes. Okay, so in simple plant like algae, fungi, bryophytes and pteridophytes, water is the medium. Here is only the water is the medium through which male and female gamete is moved. It means gamete transfer takes place through this water. Gamete transfer takes place. Okay, first one in simple plants. Okay, we are talking algae, fungi, bryophyte and pteridophyte. What will happen? Through this water, here they are using a water as a medium through which male and female gametes moves, or in other I can say that gamete transfer takes place through the water medium in algae, fungi, bryophyte and pteridophyte. Here the number of gametes are much more than the number of female gamete. In that case, when we are male gametes more as compared to the female gamete. Here in case of simple plant, here what will happen? The number of male gamete are much more than as compared to this female gamete. Okay, and most of those male gametes fail to reach this female gamete. Still the number of more, but still they are unable to reach to the female gametes. Okay, so to compensate this loss of male gamete, okay, during the transport. Okay, so number of male gamete produced in several thousand times than the number of female gamete produced. Why? So my question is that why this male gamete is more produced in simple plant as compared to female gamete? Okay, because male gamete are not able to reach to this female gametes. So that why in simple plant male gamete are produced more rather than the female gamete to compensate the loss of male gamete during the gamete transformation. Understood? Then in higher plant, okay, this is a very simple plant. Now we are talking in higher plant or in higher plant or in seed plants. Okay, in seeds plant, seed producing. Here pollen grain carries the male gamete. Here the pollen grain is there that carries male gamete. Okay, and here the ovule carries the egg, or we can say ovum or female gamete. Okay, this is a simple plant. Now we are talking about the higher plant. Okay, in higher plant what will happen? Pollen grains are there, right? They produce a male gamete, and ovules are there. They produce an egg that is called as ovum. Okay, now this male gamete it transfer to this female. Okay, and then further processes occurs. So how it transfers? Okay, so pollen grain must be transferred from anther to the, here the male part is anther, you can see this. Okay, and female gamete, that is stigma style ovary, here anther and filament. Okay, so here the pollen grain must be transferred from anther to the stigma to facilitate the process of fertilization, right? So transfer of pollen grain from anther, and as we know the pollen grain, where is the pollen grain is present? Here, right? So pollen grain, the transfer of pollen grain from anther, this is a part of male gamete, that's anther and filament. Okay, the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of this female reproductive part. Okay, that process is known as pollination. That process is known as pollination. Understood? What do you mean by pollination? The transfer of anther, transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma. Okay, this process is known as pollination. Or in general, I can say that male gamete transfer hota hai from male reproductive part to female reproductive. This process is known as pollination. Okay. Now, the pollination is two types: self and cross pollination. Okay, what we learn? Transfer of pollen grain from the stigma. Okay, stigma, it is of same flower, same flower में होता है, that is called as self pollination. Here the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of different flower, then it's called as cross pollination. Okay, fine. Here it means the self pollinations occur in bisexual plant, okay, or we can say monoecious plant. An example is pea plant. And the cross pollinations, it means it's occurring unisexual plant, and this unisexual condition is known as dioecious, right? And it occurs in unisexual plant, right? Understood? So this is called as self pollination, this is called as cross pollination. Now what will happen after that? This pollen grain is transferred from anther to the stigma. Okay, here they stick this pollen grain Okay. Now this pollen grain germinate on the stigma to form a pollen tube, and here ovules is there. Okay, pollen, and here egg is there. Okay, they germinate to form a pollen tube, and that delivered the male gamete from pollen tube near the ovules and discharge the male gamete near the eggs, and here the eggs and male gamete mix, the carry out the process of fertilization, and zygote is formed. Okay, that is known as gamete transfer. So what will happen here in this case is, I am talking about just a gamete transfer, not actual the fertilization. Okay, now this pollen grain germinate, transfer on the stigma. Now this pollen grain germinate on the stigma to produce a long tube that is called as pollen tube. Okay, and from this pollen they deliver the male gamete near the ovule and discharge the male gamete near the eggs, and further process takes place. Okay, that process is known as gamete transfer. Okay, that process is known as gamete transfer. Now we will see the second event in sexual reproduction, that is called as fertilization. So next event, that is second event of sexual reproduction, is a fertilization. Okay, now as you know, what do you mean fertilization? Ferti means fusion. Okay, fusion of male and female gamete is known as fertilization. That fertilization is also known as syngamy. Syn means fusion, gamy means gametes. So henceforth, instead of fertilization, I am using this term that is called as syngamy. Syn means fusion, gamy means gamete. Fusion of a gamete is known as fertilization, or is also known as syngamy. Okay, now what is the result of fusion of male and female gamete? It results in the formation of a diploid zygote, because gamete are haploid. Haploid male gamete, haploid female gamete, to form a diploid zygote. That is the result of fertilization. Okay, now here in fertilization you can see one more terminology, that is called as parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis. Okay, what do you mean by parthenogenesis? Okay, the process of, we can say, the process of development of a new organism without fertilization of female gamete. What is the process of development of new organisms without fertilization of female gamete? Is known as parthenogenesis. Or in other words, I can say that the female gamete undergoes, in very simple to understand, so I can define the parthenogenesis in other words, that is female gamete undergoes development without the female gamete undergoes development. After development, what they form? To form a new gamete. is known as parthenogenesis. So in simple word, only what will happen? Only female gamete undergoes certain development, and only female gamete, they form a new organism, okay, without any fertilization with the male gamete. This process is known as parthenogenesis, and this parthenogenesis occurs in organism. For example is honeybee, it occurs in rotifer, it occurs in lizard, also it occurs in turkey birds, okay. So parthenogenesis occurs in that. Now this fertilization, okay, is has two types. Fertilization has two types, okay. External fertilization and internal fertilization, okay. Fertilization are basically classified into two types, that is called as external fertilization and internal fertilization. External itself, what is mean by external? Outside the body. And what is in means inside, and what is inside the body, okay. So what do you mean by external fertilization? Is the external syngamy. The syngamy occurs outside the body of the organism, that is called as external fertilization. And here the fertilization occurs inside the body of organism, is known as internal fertilization. Here the large number of gametes are released. Here large number of gametes are released in the surrounding media. In the surrounding medium for fertilization. Here very means number of ova is very less as compared to this male gamete. So here the number of ova produced are less, but large numbers of male gametes are released, and they travel towards the ova, okay. Here you can see it occurs in bony fishes, external fertilization. Bony fishes, amphibians, apart from that it also occurs in algae, okay. Here it occurs in many terrestrial organisms, just like fungi, higher animals and reptiles. Higher animals just like reptiles, birds, mammals, and in majority of plants like bryophyta or bryophytes, pteridophytes, here I am writing the difference. Pteridophytes, after pteridophytes, it also occurs in gymnosperm and angiosperm also. Okay, here the internal fertilizations occurs in higher animal like fungi, reptiles, birds and mammals, and it also occurs in higher plants like bryophyta, pteridophyta, gymnosperm and angiosperm. Okay, most what is the disadvantage of this external fertilization is that I'm talking about disadvantage. Okay. So disadvantage of external fertilization is that the offsprings are extremely vulnerable to the predator. Here the large number of gametes are produced, male and female. So these are extremely vulnerable to the predator. Okay, spreading their survival up to the adulthood. That is one of the big disadvantage of this external fertilization. Okay. But what about in internal fertilization? Here the male gamete is motile and female gamete is non-motile in order to fuse with this egg. So male gametes travel in order to fuse with the egg, then they form a zygote. That the process is known as synegamy. It occurs in internal fertilization. Okay. In seed plants, the higher plants, we already said. So non-motile male gametes are carried to the female pollen tube. Okay. I'm talking about the internal fertilization. Okay. So what is happening generally in animals? Male gamete motile. Male gamete is motile, has to move to egg to form a zygote through the process of fertilization. Okay. Okay. This is in case of animals. What is happen in case of higher plants? That is called as seed plants. Here the non-motile male gametes are carried out. Here the male gametes are non-motiles. Okay. So non-motile male gametes is carried to female by pollen tube. Okay, and then the process of fertilization is occurs. So this is all about the fertilization. After the fertilization, next and last event is left, that is called as post fertilization, that we will see at end of this lesson. Okay, now the third we will see so last event of this sexual reproduction is the post fertilization event. Okay, so what do you mean by post fertilization event? The event is sexual reproduction after the formation of a zygote. Okay, how can we define it? The event, right, or events in the sexual reproduction after the formation of zygote is known as post fertilization event. Okay, here the two steps is formed. First, there are two steps are there. First, formation of zygote, and second one is called as embryogenesis. Okay, the two steps are occurs in post fertilization event, that is called as formation of a zygote, and second is that embryogenesis. Okay, so what is this formation of the, we will see. Okay, zygote is a vital link between that to ensure the continuity of a species between the organism of one generation to the next generation, right? Yes, it is only the link between one generation to the next generation. every sexually reproducing organism, including human being life, as a single cell, that is called as zygote. I am repeat it again. Every sexually reproducing organism, including the human being's life, as a single cell zygote is important, or the single cell zygote is only responsible for the continuation of life. Okay, so in organisms having external fertilization, here is external fertilization, right, and here is internal fertilization. Now, so in organism having external fertilization, okay, zygote is formed in external environment or external medium, okay, and that's most probably the water. Here the zygote is formed in external medium, that is called as water, and those have internal fertilization. Here the zygote is formed inside the body of female, right? In algae and fungi, now we are talking about the algae and fungi, right? Here in algae and fungi, fusion is occurs and they form a zygote. Now this zygote develop a thick wall around itself, okay, and that wall give resistance to desiccation. What do you mean by desiccation? Prevent from what? Dehydration. Not only desiccation, it also from the damage also, okay. And now after this they germinate or germinate after this resting phase. Understood? So what happened in algae and fungi? In algae and fungi, the fusion of male and female gamete is formed. They form a zygote. That zygote develop a thick wall around itself, and because of this thick walls is prevented from desiccation and damage. Okay, so this is a resting phase, and after this end of the resting phase they germinate to form a